Hello, everyone. This is Eva Nolik-Smith with YogaUOnline, and welcome to this free talk with Judith Hanson Lasater. This will be an audio talk only, and we are super excited to have Judith join us for this talk. She is, I would say, hands down, probably the longest practicing and most experienced yoga teacher in the US and probably currently in the world. Judith has been a yoga teacher for 53 years, and everyone knows her for, number one, her wonderful teaching, and for the long list of wonderful books Judith has written that really helps us understand the nuances, not just of yoga teaching and practice, but also of living yoga in our lives. Judith, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Ava, thank you for that very kind introduction. Thank you for what you do to promote yoga day in and day out. Help supporting a lot of teachers and students through your work. That's quite significant. So before we talk, let's have my little ritual ringing of the bells and 1 minute of silence. Are you ready?
Yes.
Now I feel more settled. Do you?
Yes, beautiful. So much in that simple sound.
Yeah.
And it sort of brings us to our topic, which of course is yoga. You recently had a series of talks on what I've learned from practicing and teaching yoga for 53 years. And you will be talking about that in our course on YogaUOnline as well. If you were to sum up, what would you feel is the most valuable lesson you have learned over the years, both from your own yoga practice and from your teaching?
That, my dear, is a massively huge question
I know.
and quite difficult. I think that it has to be the overwhelming importance, significance, and effectiveness of devotion, bhakti, to the practice itself, to making the choice in hard moments, in easy moments, in distracted moments, in sad moments, to remember the practice. And I can give you an example. I was in labor with my first child. It was a dark and stormy night. And I had been practicing yoga I started in 1970, and this was 1977. And it turned out that my pelvis was too small to give birth to this child. And so the doctors said, we need to do a cesarean birth. Now, I really want to take it aside and say, let's all say cesarean birth instead of cesarean section, because it is the primary thing is not how the baby comes out, it's that it's a celebration of birth. So he said I needed to do that. And of course, I was disappointed. I wanted to give birth in the backyard under a tree. I mean, that was my, as much natural as possible. And in that moment, there was a gift from the universe for me. And I had this, even in the middle of labor, I had this radiant sense of presence. And this was the thought I had, Ava. Oh, this is just a difficult asana.
Mhm.
This decision and this not getting what I wanted exactly. And, it all worked out well. I had a healthy baby who's grown up and has 4 kids of his own. And, but it was that first really breakthrough moment where I understood that yoga was beyond the mat. I'd had another one somewhat like that too. I have, now that I'm remembering. I left work. I worked part-time. It was a Friday. I had a new little Volkswagen Bug. It was sunny. I had great plans for the weekend, and I'm driving along and I'm in a really bad mood. And once again, it was that, I'd forgotten this till we started talking about it. That was a sudden moment of realization, like, there's actually nothing wrong. It's just my thoughts. And so to me, those kind of moments, to see that my yoga mat is as large as the world, it is as complete as every moment, it exists everywhere all the time. And that from my practice, I can help to create a container, a conduit for the evolution of consciousness, and so can everyone else. So those moments kind of began to shift me in a profound way to understand that this was all bigger than triangle pose.
Mhm. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And when you look at the teaching of yoga over the years, you clearly have had, some very insightful and deep experiences from your own practice. A lot of teachers come to their teaching with a 200-hour training that, many of us do initially, let's face it, because we want to just get better at our own practice. So what do you see are, some of the main challenges that yoga teachers face in, communicating this, 5,000 plus year old knowledge effectively?
I have 2 points I'd like to raise. The first time I went in to teach a yoga class, I had been practicing for 10 months. I had no formal training of any kind. I just loved yoga. I took my first asana class, got up the next morning and did what I remembered and started going to class every day, and then was asked to take over this program. And I said naively, sure. And then I don't know what I was thinking. I was a very good student. I was in graduate school. I wrote, I got good grades. I was organized, but I had just walked in to this class, Ava, and sat down on the mat and went, uh-oh, what am I going to do for an hour? It's an hour class. I didn't have a plan. I just sat there. And they were all lying down because that's what we did in those days. And I wanted to sneak out or something. So I just said, oh yes, what have I learned? Just take some deep breaths, center in, center down, center back. And then I had this very real spine tingling experience of my teacher standing behind my right shoulder and hers behind hers, and on and on and on into infinity. And they were handing a bucket forward of water. So I had this nonverbal sensing, feelings, awareness, and breakthrough in that moment, which was, I get it. I'm the bucket, not the water. So this is the first thing I want to say about teaching. We are the vessel for the teaching. Don't confuse the teaching in your own mind. either as a student or teacher, don't confuse the teacher and the teaching. The teacher is a human being with a personality and on their own evolutionary path. But the teaching can come, so the teaching comes through us, not from us. And that is a big relief because we're just handing the water forward. Then the second thing I think I've really learned about teaching is the most important thing about teaching is not what am I going to teach today? That's number two. The biggest thing is what is going to be my relationship with my students? Because yoga traditionally was taught and is still actually taught person to person. You can learn from books and Zoom, but you really learn in relationship to a teacher. So it's handed down person to person. So what is going to be my relationship with my students? What are the boundaries I'm going to have for myself? What are the boundaries that I'm going to maintain for them? What sort of relationship is this going to be? Because it is the relationship that helps so much to shape our experience of the practice. How do you feel hearing that answer?
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think one of the things a lot of yoga teachers struggle with is the imposter syndrome, where maybe not so much anymore today, but it used to be that yoga was, considered a somewhat spiritual practice. And so you teach people, a practice where you know from your own experience, there is a lot to it in terms of how we could deepen our experience of life. But at the same time, you are not a guru, you're not an enlightened person, you're not like having necessarily deep experiences of universal consciousness. So how would you advise people who feel like, yes, they know how to teach poses, but they still feel somewhat inadequate in terms of their ability to reach students effectively and communicate effectively?
Well, I may surprise you with this answer, but I would trust a teacher who is not in an unhealthy way, but is thinking, oh, I want to learn better. I want to learn more about, I want to keep learning. I have the thought that I don't know enough, and I want to keep learning, and I want to learn from my mistakes, and I could have done that better. And next time I will do it in a different way. So I think a person who is, to me, the best yoga teachers are people who are committed to their practice and to the practice of teaching with curiosity and openness, willing to learn, willing to think new ideas, and to continue that no matter how many years. And number two, that you create a class in which you have some confidence in what you've learned from your practice. So you have a certain authority, but you're not authoritarian. It's not about making people do things for you. It's about creating an environment in which the student discovers the yoga, that you help to create an environment in which you conjure up the pose, not impose the pose. So it's an attitude of, you don't have all the answers, but I want to show you what I have. I want to share with you what I know, what I practiced, what I found effective.
Yeah.
So trust yourself first is what I say to yoga teachers and all human beings. Trust yourself first, not only, but trust yourself first, because there is a wisdom. What I think is happening in some of those cases is yoga teachers are thinking, I don't have enough knowledge. No one has enough knowledge. No one, not the greatest teachers. But if you have curiosity and openness and humility, you can let go and find the wisdom, which is your wisdom from your lived life experience. Teach from your true self, stand on your mat in your own light, and speak with love and presence about your own experience, your own understanding. And that's speaking from wisdom. And that's why the student comes back. The hardest yoga class to ever teach is someone else's, because the student learns the way you teach. They are there because it comes through you in a way that they can receive. So you need to trust yourself, but with humility. And so having some doubt is, to me, a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think, oh gosh, what am I going to teach today? I just don't know anything. I don't have anything new. I don't feel inspired. And I just go get on my mat and, probably do some poses that open me up a little bit and calm me down. And then when I step on the mat, when I sit to teach, I always have everyone sit for 1 minute. And during that time, I connect with what's alive in me and try to become more present. And then I trust the force, Luke. I just, it's there. Your wisdom is never obtained. Like knowledge, you can obtain knowledge. Wisdom, you can't obtain. You just allow it. And one of the goals I've had for so many decades is, and this may sound funny or strange, I don't care. When I teach a class, sometimes I say something that I had no conscious awareness that I knew. And oftentimes when I do that, I kind of get these chills down my back or in my arms. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to do that at least once in every class, because that means this is wisdom coming from a deeper place than my ego. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I totally do. I noticed I've like all my life been a person that arrives like 1 minute before something starts, sometimes like 5 minutes after something starts. But when I started teaching yoga, I noticed if I took the time and came half an hour early, it was literally like in that space before class, I got all these ideas and all this knowledge downloaded.
It just bubbled up in you.
Yeah, it just came true from I don't know where, but it was so consistent that, now I always show up half an hour early if I have to teach, because
but that's exactly it. That's your wisdom. You're creating a container for your wisdom. Not that none of us have acquired this wisdom.
Right.
Wisdom finds a pathway, like water going downhill or whatever. The wisdom finds us, and we need to allow that wisdom. We're the conduit, we're the bucket.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. My last question for you is one of my favorite Judaisms. I have a lot of them, but I think this is probably the most central to your wonderful combination of very practical, down-to-earth, anatomy-based teaching with this integration of the more spiritual element of practice. So you often say that the practice of yoga helps remove that which isn't our deepest self. Could you talk more about that?
Well, I don't know if you ever went through this stage in adolescence that is often written about, and many of us experience is like, what is the meaning of life? Like,
yeah,
like my question always wasn't the scientist question. Growing up in school was never what is the universe made of. My question was, why is the universe?
Right. What am I here for?
I was a mystic. I was a philosopher, and the only answer that has ever satisfied me, Ava, and that still feeds me, and it's just my intellectual mind is never going to solve that problem. But if I can, in my practice, when I sit, when I remember, I hold these truths to be self-evident, to quote our forefathers, the founding of our country, is that what is the most important thing right now, which is a great mantra to ask yourself many times a day. And the answer to that question that has returned to me thousands of times is be present. Because presence is the state of presence, which you can get into right now in a millisecond by, and I'll stop talking for a second while we do this, is just pay attention to the sensations of the moment, of how you're sitting, where's the weight, maybe your breath, maybe the sounds outside your walls. Do that now. That's what we're here to do, because presence, the state of presence, is the container of consciousness. And another word for consciousness is spaciousness. And the reason I say this is the most important thing any human being can do is because from that state, wisdom, goodness, peace, compassion, empathy are the natural products. And then when we shift our consciousness, we act in different ways, and we're now adding to the evolution of the universe. So everything we do with consciousness, everything we don't do, refusing to hate, for example, helps the universe evolve. Now, why is that the way it is? I have no idea. I have come to the space in my 77 and a half years that's where I want to put my money. I want to put my money on becoming present, having moments of spacious consciousness, because that's my state. Then the product of my words and the product of my actions are going to contribute to that in everyone else around me.
And I think another word for that spacious consciousness is love, right?
Absolutely. But not the sort of human sense of love. Like very wide, very deep, shimmering silence where the angels are actually singing. That space. That's our birthright. That's why we're here. It's my current thinking.
So very, very beautiful, Judith. Thank you so much for sharing of these insights, and we can't wait to welcome you back in December for your course. And I believe we also have a holiday talk with you. So yes. Thank you so much for joining us, and even more so, thank you for doing this important work for 53 years and continuing and yes. Being such a bright light for so many people.
Thank you so much. I'm humbly grateful to be that. So in our course is a 2-part course on the 53 things I've learned in 53 years of teaching. And some of them I think you'll find poignant, some are practical, some are not, some are just funny. It's just like a whole wide range of what I've learned, lessons great and small, over the years, that I'd love to share with you. So let's do this now. Move your hands away from your body. Inhale the breath. Exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart. Namaste. May we live like the lotus. at home in the muddy water. Much love to you and to everyone. Thank you for all you do, Ava. Namaste.
Namaste, Judith. Thank you so much. And everyone, thanks for listening and enjoy the rest of your day. Stay present and happy. Take care.